Hi there, it's 1:04 p.m. on May 22nd.
Namaste. I'm Ben Turner
The
with
Order of St. Joseph, which is a holy order of the Summit Lighthouse. The Summit Lighthouse is part of Church Universal and Triumphant, which was established in 1975 by Jesus and Buddha, and through the messenger Elizabeth Clare Prophet. We're a mystery school. And let's see, looking for questions on the internet. I was summoned, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on today out in the field. Mary Baker Eddy is an embodiment, well, she is an ascended master in our church. If you look at the list that was distributed recently, there was a list that said Merry Christmas from the Summit Lighthouse, and there was a list of all the ascended master names. You won't see Mary Baker listed on that breakdown of masters because she is considered to be the goddess of wisdom now. So she was an embodiment of Theosophia, the goddess of wisdom. I was wondering about that as well because I had heard that Mary Baker Eddy was an ascended master in the church. But you won't find her listed as Mary Baker Eddy. Some of them are listed as names of people who used to be in the church. There are a handful of, I'm thinking, and Ruth Hawkins is an artist who developed some of the sacred art, and I believe that she's one of the ascended lady masters now, but some of the individuals in the church are just listed as their names. And I can go down that list as well. Let me see if I can come up with it. I do have it here on my desktop somewhere, unless it got moved around. But that's the answer to the Mary Baker Eddy question. I had been wondering about that as well. And I wanted to clarify from before I had this question. I was talking to a friend of mine on the internet about the chakral rays and the stones associated with the chakral rays, and of course Mother taught that there were specific stones, associated crystals with which to work, associated with each of the rays. And we were talking about aquamarine, and someone had suggested that it was a first ray stone, and that might be fine. I like to adhere to the colorations and the chakral arrangement as designed by Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet, or rather as codified by the Summit Lighthouse. Other, AM types, gurus, bodhisattvas, and so forth, agree with that as well. Lipo of the Ascension School in Sedona, Arizona, says that he doesn't feel that anybody really got it right until Elizabeth Clare Prophet came along. And it differs a little bit from some of the Hindu traditions, but I think that a lot of the Siddhas would recognize ours as being legitimate. It's just that if you go into some of the different forms, I think, of, mystical schools and teachers across the world might have differing opinions, and the chakral colors, have varied over time. But we have a very set understanding of chakral law and of coloration as well, and that's fine. It's good to work with for everybody to be on the same page when it comes to certain of the principles. But aquamarine is actually the ray color of the fourth secret ray. There's actually an aqua ray, so aquamarine would be associated with the fourth secret ray, and I can provide more information when I pull that up again, and I intend to do so as well. As a reminder to people who are working with me, some of you may find that I repeat myself or that the information is scattershot. And that's just the way that it goes. I'm here to attempt to compile information so that I can write a book. So I'm trying to distill all the sacred information as I encounter it, and find the most important pieces of the emerging teaching, so that I can archive it here for us to to provide something with which to interact, but also so that we have records of what I'm uncovering and when and so forth. So, but I certainly want to take your questions and answer your questions directly over here as well. What else do we have going on? Right, the Rosary. Okay, so I have been promising / threatening to do a new version of the Summit Lighthouse Rosary. And actually, the Summit Lighthouse has already codified a rosary, the New Age Rosary. Elizabeth Clare Prophet, in, I believe it was 1973, possibly 1972, Colorado Springs, at La Tourelle, received information from the Holy Virgin with respect to the new Hail Mary. That was imparted to her at the time. And some additional information was imparted to Mother with respect to the structure and the execution of the Rosary, the 14th Rosary. So I had been going around. I belong to the Confraternity of the Most Holy Rosary, which is run by the Dominican friars. So that's through the Roman Catholic Church, and that's perfectly fine. Summit Lighthouse does not require apostasy from other religions. The Dominican friars have their own way of saying the Rosary, and truly, if you look at the canonical Catholic teaching, to the best of my knowledge, the Rosary is not set in stone. I mean, it is. There's a tradition and there's an approved way of saying a Rosary, and I'm sure that the Church puts its imprimatur on the descriptions when they're published. But the Dominicans have a different way of saying the Rosary, so there's not just one way of saying the Holy Rosary, even according to Roman Catholics. There are a couple different ways that you can do it. What I wanted to do was take Mother's new version of Hail Mary, the prayer, and incorporate that into a Rosary. And I prayed about it, and the Holy Mother, who, in my experience in recent days, reaches out, I think, when people are the witness to very serious forms of crisis and so forth. The Holy Mother instructed me that it's fine to do a Rosary entirely with the new Hail Mary, Mother's Hail Mary, but that it would also be okay, and to an extent, I guess, purgative in a way, to say the old Hail Mary at random intervals over the decades, if I felt compelled to do that. And by purgative, I guess I mean the old Hail Mary is, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Well, the Summit Lighthouse tries to get away from the notion that we're sinners, and also tries to get away from the notion, I think, that we have to lose physical embodiment. That's part of the emerging teaching, and the updated version of Hail Mary closes with, instead of pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death, it is pray for us sons and daughters of God now and at the hour of our victory over sin, disease, and death. Amen. So, I mean, I prefer that content in theory, but I grew up saying, pray for us sinners. Well, the world considers a lot of people who aren't sinners to be sinners, so maybe Mary is trying to tell me that some of those people who have been labeled, should be able to speak out and try to shake off the shackles. So there might be sort of a a nuance or a subtlety in the language there. She might be saying that we can sort of take back the accusation that we are sinners. Of course, we do believe in fallen angels, and I would never personally remove the hellfire references from the Fatima prayer, because Mary told the children that was fine to include in the Rosary, and I think that sometimes I do believe in the drawing down of light and Mother's teachings with respect to the importance of light, and Anna de Maima said some really interesting things about that I have documented. But I think that it's okay to incorporate both the old and the new, because the older versions, the older language in those prayers reminds us of, I think, probably the effects of Satan. And we do at Church Universal and Triumphant believe that Satan is an active force. Not necessarily that he is causing, various forms of temptation within our choice matrix and our thoughts and that sort of thing, as was taught to us by the Orthodox churches for a very long time. But the fallen angels are to be avoided, and their influences to be avoided on the planet. When Michael cast the Lucifer and his minions out of heaven, he didn't cast them into hell. They ended up on the earth, and so we're still trying to fight those forces. In any event, La Tourelle is the location in Colorado where Mary revealed to Elizabeth Clare Prophet the new Rosary, and so in my quest to codify a Rosary for the Summit Lighthouse, I set aside a lot of time, was going to go and dig up all the Dominican versions of the Rosary and so forth, and also looked on the internet and was trying to, if you look at 10 different descriptions of how to pray the Rosary, you're going to come up with nuances from description to description. Well, if you go into Inner Perspectives, I think it's number 6 and number 7, Mother has discussed the 14th Rosary. So we do have most of that information available. So I will review it and see how to go about discussing it, and where it might be that I'm receiving new information. But I will definitely point out the Elizabeth Clare Prophet version as well. And I was gratified to stumble upon that information. And it's not, there's, if you look at Inner Perspectives, one is called the New Age Rosary, but there's more information about the Rosary, about the 14th Rosary, in some of those other listings that aren't entitled, that don't have Rosary in the title. So it's really, it's tucked in there pretty deeply, but it can be found. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, and I, as usual, I'm without my book. I do, Merlin, I know. Yeah. Okay, I will be right back. Yeah, I don't want to get into the middle of that debate. I have particular opinions about it. You're talking about Temple of the Presence. The impression that I got when I talked to reverends at, well, I think the Summit Lighthouse, or a couple of different people at the Summit Lighthouse, was that, well, Temple of the Presence, I don't know. I don't understand the history or know, like, if there's a schism, or if that everybody just says, if some people just say we want nothing to do with it, or if some people say, well, this is really great, you're a continuation of what it is that we do, and an extension of the dispensation. I don't really have an opinion about that. I don't know that the shearers are dispensationally the heirs of Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and I suspect it's not important to them that they're considered as such. They do claim to adhere to the lineage, the, I guess, theosophical / I am lineage, the messengership lineage that came down through Lotus. And I mean, Guy and Enda Ballard are considered to be ascended masters at Temple of the Presence. I see in the grander scheme of things, I think Temple of the Presence and the Summit Lighthouse will eventually be one organization. I think the Summit Lighthouse is the mother organization, or the overarching mystery school, and Temple of the Presence, I view it as a temple within the Summit Lighthouse, and I think that that's fine. Their art differs, and I'm talking to people at Holy Orders and at the ranch, World Teton Retreat, our homeland, Summit Lighthouse. There was an issue with that, and at some point they didn't want necessarily Temple of the Presence art to be incorporated, because it throws you off if you're being prayerful and you're expecting to see the same images of the masters and you're using those as in your prayer work. Then it can throw you out of alignment, essentially. But I don't know. Nobody's talked to me about how the Temple of the Presence started, whether or not there were lawsuits, whether or not. I think the shearers. I think that Carolyn and Monroe used to be mother adherents. I think they used to live at the ranch. I don't really know. I'm not really sure. But I think that there's an opportunity there. Someone was saying the other day that in China there's a word for crisis, and the word also means opportunity. Well, I think there's an opportunity there. We say Keepers of the Flame at the Summit Lighthouse and at Temple of the Presence. People who are chelas, who are participating at the same level, are referred to as torchbearers. So it seems to me that, there's a real germane, there's a, I suppose, correlation there, or the language and the structure of Temple of the Presence doesn't necessarily exclude the Summit Lighthouse. But again, with respect to the dispensation, that's a different story, certainly, and people, I can see where it would be a problem to mother adherents if someone sort of came and inappropriately tried to claim the mantle, but I don't want to make any sort of presumptions about what the shearers say. I think when you join them, you do take an oath that they are the anointed representatives, and they call themselves the anointed representatives, which is not the same thing as messenger. And as far as Elizabeth Clare Prophet and Mark Prophet is concerned, well, Temple of the Presence came out and said that Mark Prophet was the Chohan of the second secret ray. The first secret ray, by the way, is the secret chamber of the heart. I refer to it as the 8th chakra. A lot of people will say, well, there are 7 chakras in the body. I say that there are 8 chakras in the body periodically because of the secret chamber. But that's the first secret ray. The second secret ray would correspond to the crown chakra, the 972 petaled lotus, at least to an extent, which is appropriate because Lanello, Mark Prophet, we call Mark Prophet Lanello because he was an embodiment of Lancelot, and Longfellow. It's actually a contraction of Lancelot the knight and Longfellow the poet. Was also an embodiment of Akhenaten, the Egyptian pharaoh who moved Egyptian religion away from polytheism and more towards an organized concept centering around monotheism. And really, I mean, Christ as Apollo, Christ as the sun, is a quasi-monotheistic concept, and a theosophic concept to an extent. It sounds like something that you'd read out of Steiner, Rudolf Steiner. So, Temple of the Presence, their I am activity, it's an I am activity temple, and I don't know what the ranch says or feels about it, or if there, my presumption is that there are. You can get online and find people who are disaffected, who will say X, Y, and Z about Church Universal and Triumphant, but you have to be careful, with respect to what you read online and that sort of thing. And it's a real drag if people are doing a really good job with something, and you get one person starting to mouth off and go to the media and so forth. And I mean, I don't believe that frivolous lawsuits are necessarily as much of a problem as people say, because I think that the corporate powers and the consumerist-driven mentality and corporate and even big government mentality sometimes will try to attack people who are filing lawsuits. I'm a litigant, so it's important to me that my right to court is preserved, but to the extent that these lawsuits were valid against Church Universal and Triumphant, I mean, all churches are sued at some point, and you don't want to necessarily destroy your chances at identifying with an organization simply because other people have managed to badmouth the organization. But if you look at what is said, if you look at the words of the detractors, it's not very well organized. It's a lot of vitriol, and it is unsubstantiated condemnation of Elizabeth Clare Prophet as Satan or a witch or whatever else that they're saying about her. And her, I mean, and again, and I've said this before, and I'll pull out examples. The Christian preachers now, not all of them, but many of them, will condemn people and condemn beliefs and so forth, practices exterior to their narrow brand of Christianity, based upon, distorted interpretations of Bible passages. And that's it. And that's their entire basis for doing that. So what this does is it makes Church Universal and Triumphant, and puts us on the defensive when you read that, or it can. And of course, it's fairly easy to keep a lot of that out. And if you're studying with a group of people, and if you're in a Sangha, and you're being prayerful and focusing on the Dharma, then a lot of times it's not really important what the true Christians are saying. But if you look, but atheists are fueled by that, and atheists will return to that again and again and say the Bible's rotten and full of hate and all of these things. Well, the reality of the situation, we've talked about this before, the Nicene Council permitted a lot of things to, open the door to whatever had been said previously that was inappropriate, shoved it in the Bible, took out all the interesting books of the Bible, took out the Book of Enoch, which discloses the truth that human beings can become angels, and then said, this is what it is that you're going to study and follow. Well, that's not really fair, A. And B, the other activity that prevents people from absorbing the teaching are, the words of these Christian pastors who say, but it says, in Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 11, X, Y, and Z about such and such a topic, but it's entirely taken out of context. And it's not even a reflection of the true teaching. And many theologians would say, but this isn't even accurate, what you're saying. And yet, but it creates this impression that there's a basis for fundamentalism and those sorts of views, that there's a basis for it in the Bible, and there is no such basis. it's that they're retrofitting interpretation based upon how it is that they want to manipulate the views of their congregation, and that's all it is. But nobody discusses it. Everybody says, "Well, that's Christianity for you," but it's not. So I suppose I felt compelled to make that additional point. Yeah, and I couldn't get on that board. There's one board I can get into Catholic Answers, and I was accepted into Catholic Answers, and I guess I have enough pull at the Catholic Church to be accepted into that group of apologists, but I was not accepted into the Puritan board. They were very strict, and the Puritan board are the I guess the churches with, well, the Reformed churches. You have to be, I guess, one of the branches of Reformed Christianity, and I couldn't finagle my way into a membership there, unfortunately. Would have been interesting to talk to some of those people, but we had, I will tell you this, K17 is on the list of Ascended Masters, of course, because he is an Ascended Master. In one of my other recordings, I think it's the recording where I discussed Ryalism, the religion, the belief in Ryal. Ryal taught that Yahweh was an alien that came to the planet and that sort of thing. In any event, I looked at his teaching a little bit. Well, in that recording, there was a mention of Sutko, the space detective, and a couple, I think the Keeper of the Scrolls was mentioned as well. There were 5 masters associated with, well, space detection, and apparently they ran what Kurita out of Sun Lakes called God's Garage. And God's Garage, I think, was at Shambhala, and it had to do with saucers landing and investigations occurring. Presumably on an etheric level, I suppose. And it's interesting that Keeper of the Scrolls is actually an Ascended Master at the Summit Lighthouse, as is. And we were going to get a lot of questions about this, because usually when I talk about Nephilim and spacecraft, I get a lot of questions. Yeah, I can't find my folder anymore, though. It's not marked. Oh, there it is. Ascended Masters names list. And this is official. This is Summit Lighthouse. I mean, this came directly from Summit. Okay. Do you have a question? Holy Amethyst has a question, but I can't. It's not coming over. It's not coming through. Kuzco, not Sutko. Kuzco is one. K17. We know about K17. Pope John the 23rd actually was considered an Ascended Master at the Summit Lighthouse before his canonization by the Vatican. Saint Therese of Lisieux, right? So she's one. Well, Cusco's up here, and so is Keeper of the Scrolls, and both are mentioned by Carita. And I will find the. I'll find the story. Right. Yeah, I don't have the answer. It looks to me as if this quote is taken from Pearl, the volume 17, number 49, December 8th, 1974, Pearl. Let them prepare the tree, each painted ball the star of a causal body of a favorite ascended master or one revered among the hosts of the Lord. Let them print or write the names of their precious friends and tie them to the top of the ball, and then place the ball reverently in full awareness that, lo, I am here, and lo, I am there. For wherever the name of an archangel, an Elohim, an ascended being is written or spoken, there is the focus of that electronic presence. So, Maria Montessori is listed by name. Queen of Light, Ramu. So, okay. Reminder that the Holy Order retreat is June 27th in Montana. And this is going to occur, you know, there are conferences. There's a conference from June 29th to July 4th. So Holy Orders is meeting 2 days in advance of that. And then the Summit University retreat is July 6th to the 10th. I have the form if anyone wants to be in touch with me. You can message to me over Facebook or send an email to benturner214@gmail.com, and I'll mail you a copy of the form. And if there's savings associated with registering in advance. Looks like we're doing 4 different languages this year, including Russian. And you can indicate also you want to check off your flight if you're flying in, if you're arriving at. Well, they'll pick you up from the Bozeman Airport or the bus station at either Bozeman or Livingston. Right, and if you respond before May 26th, you'll get the discount. If you fax before by June 9th, you'll get the discount. And you can email the information as well, to the best of my knowledge. You know, there are different meal plans, the whole thing, so... Sun Lakes, Arizona. The keeper of the scrolls is a cosmic being in charge of the Akashic records. More about the second death. This has to be verified. I would have to take a closer look at this. This one source is and there's the spirit of Christmas, the spirit of selflessness. This one source is proposing Polaris and Magnus as cosmic beings and twin flames who govern and control the axis of the Earth. This is at a website called selfgrowth.com. Polaris is a masculine being who governs the North Pole, and Magnus is a feminine being who controls the South Pole. We can call to these beings, as well as to Cusco, mighty cosmos, and the legions of the violet flame to help redress the Earth's axis in preparation for the ushering in of a golden age of Aquarius. We can decree for a mighty spiritual transmutation whereby Earth experiences a minimum of cataclysmic events, adverse climate changes, and loss of life. So... when it comes to the dispensation, again, in keeping with my desire to collect information so that I can act on it later on, what they're saying is that Elizabeth Clare Prophet could access the Akashic records, as could Edgar Casey. So that's one way of illuminating what it means to be a messenger. Baby Egypt. Okay. Yeah, I'm still looking for Cusco. See what's going on. Cha-Ara is active right now. So Zoroastrianism has become more prominent in recent days. Probably in the last 2.5 weeks, according to my estimation. So, and this is her opinion, and she says it's her personal opinion. These latest Marian visions are quite fascinating. At Fatima, we were told to pray the Rosary and make first Saturdays. But in Nicaragua, Mary is stressing not just doing it, but how you do it correctly with intent and focus. At Fatima, we were told to pray through Mary, for Jesus' intercession, especially in Russia. That peace on earth was a process. Now she is saying, don't just ask for it, make peace within ourselves and with each other. The U.S. as a peacemaker is part of that message. That's going to take a lot of work, but there are people in the world who are trying to compel major changes. Certainly it couldn't happen with the current structure of the U.S. and that has been revealed to me very clearly. By Germain, but also by Guy Ballard, who was embodied as George Washington. And Mother wanted me to reveal a little bit of information in a forthcoming funding proposal to Royal Teton Ranch when studying the 14th Rosary. When we talk about yogis, Mother revealed this to me through the recording. The yogi is an adoration of the mother flame, so that's important to remember. With the top chakra, the crown chakra, being the father. She wanted me to remind you that Jesus received training in the Himalayas. He brought back the mantras of Lord Maietreya. So, sorrowful mysteries, glorious mysteries. In Catholicism, they've identified 4 kinds of mystery, and depending upon the day of the week, you will recite either the joyful, sorrowful, glorious, and luminous. And actually, luminous is elective. Luminous, when they came out with luminous mysteries, not Pope Francis, the Pope before Francis said that I think it was the Pope before Francis. Possibly it was an earlier Pope. I'm not sure if it was Benedict. I don't recall, but that they said Thursday is fine. However, and according to how they're running it through Vatican, people who have been saying the Rosary for years and are still used to saying the 3, glorious, sorrowful, and joyful, are permitted, and I know that from being in the confraternity, are permitted to just say those 3. It's elective to say luminous on Thursday. You don't have to. You can still use the old system if you want to do so. But in Mother's Church, each day of the week is associated, and 7 days of the week, 7 chakra rays, God made the world in 7 days, etc. It's in keeping with the septenary nature of the teaching. There's only one kind of mystery associated with each day. And it was in the fall of 1972 in Colorado Springs. And that was also the point at which Mary revealed to Elizabeth Clare Prophet that Mary's name means Ma Ray, the ray of the mother. And you will hear some at Lighthouse people using Ma Ray, and I believe it's one of the Buddhist prayers. I think it's the prayer. It's kind of a bhajan, I believe. Let me think for a minute. Yeah, I think it's a bhajan called Om Buddha. You'll hear the congregation say Ma Ray. And Mother wanted me to remind you this, her words: God can help us only if we are willing to move consciousness from that point A of our desperate pleading to point B of taking dominion over the earth and feeling the mastery of the Christ within us. To move from point A to point B, we engage in ritual, the ritual of prayer, the ritual of meditation, the ritual of saying, let us be up and doing. That was important when she revealed it to me. Let us be up and doing. Let us actually take action. The best way to change consciousness is to start doing something constructive, and the activity itself is a flame of the Holy Spirit, which carries us and buoys us up and gives us a joy and a sense of hope that God will deliver us from this crisis. And she's asked us to focus on the will of God as embodied by St. Thomas More, of the first ray, also King Arthur. St. Thomas More was, in her words, a great devotee of the will of God. And his focus, his etheric focus, is Darjeeling. In Roman Catholicism, the mysteries are celebrated as follows, according to day of the week. Sunday is glorious, Monday is joyful, Tuesday is sorrowful, Wednesday is glorious, Thursday is luminous, Friday is sorrowful, which is easy to remember because of Good Friday. Saturday is joyful. I'll disclose these now. The mysteries of light are the following. 5. Here are the 5. The baptism of Jesus in the Jordan, the wedding feast of Cana, Jesus proclaims the kingdom of God. 4 is the transfiguration. 5 is the institution of the Eucharist. The joyful mysteries. 5. 1. The Annunciation. The Annunciation is Gabriel announcing to Mary that she is the Mother of God. 2. The Visitation. 3. The Nativity. 4. The Presentation. 5. The finding of Jesus in the Temple. The 5 sorrowful mysteries. 1. The agony in the garden. 2. The scourging at the pillar. 3. The crowning with thorns. 4. The carrying of the cross. 5. The crucifixion. 5 glorious mysteries. 1. The resurrection. 2. The ascension. 3. The descent of the Holy Spirit. 4. The Assumption. 5. The coronation of Mary. The Vedas were disclosed to the 7 mystics by God at the dawn of time. Remember, Atlantis saw science outstrip religion. Remember what happened to Atlantis, right? The mother's teaching with respect to Eden was that Eden was a mystery school, and that the students were studying under Maietreya, and that the early chapters of Genesis took place on Atlantis. And the succession of ages. Jesus Christ reigned as high priest until 32,550 BC. Under the sign of Cancer, 17 ages previous to our own. higher depths could cause plants to grow back in those times. And this is also back in the time when we had to balance 100% of karma to make the ascension. And of course, Saint Germain intervened. With respect to that, and said to the karmic board that it was asking too much, that it should only be 51%. They say 51%. That's the official number, but I mean it means more than half. You don't have to balance 100% of your karma anymore, because Saint Germain duked it out with the karmic board effectively. Jesus and Magda didn't impose rules because they didn't need to do so. And when we speak of science outstripping religion, well, Mrs. Prophet, through Philos, and apparently this is Philos the Tibetan, is what Guru Ma said. Genetic engineering was one of the principal reasons that Atlantis sank. The intermingling of animal and human genes, and the light bearers did not stand up and demand that it stop. Some of those scientists are only re-embodying now because their sins were so grievous, but are coming back around because they have to face their karma. Enoch 50, chapter 50, verse 4, all the righteous shall become angels in heaven. Again, that my teaching from earlier is it says that nowhere else in the Bible. It says that nowhere in the Nicene Bible, the canonical Bible, that people make that transformation. Unfortunately, they cut Enoch. Right, and in pursuing the mother flame, yogis also pursue two paths, make two efforts. One is soul liberation, and the other is supreme union with God. So if you're pursuing soul liberation and supreme union with God, you're a yogi. Right, and as far as angels, at some point in 1950, the Pope, Vatican, restricted adoration to 3 angels, and it must be Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. Uriel, and I'm not sure where they're at now with all of that. I mean, I'm told that it's important to keep track of what's going on in the Vatican, and to keep track of the Catholic canon, because of its place. It's important to hierarchy. I know that. Uriel, yeah, I'm not sure about Uriel. I don't know if Uriel has finally made it into the Pope's list or not. I don't really know. Certainly, he's phenomenally important as the archangel of the 6th ray, the solar plexus. Okay, so Right, multiple embodiments. Maietreya, mother, wants me to relay this. Remember, Maietreya was embodied. Maietreya is the coming Buddha. It's the Buddha who is coming into being is Lord Maietreya. Maietreya was embodied as Krishna, and Krishna was in turn embodied as Vishnu. Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu. Okay. Hi, Joseph. Okay, Mary has asked me to fill out so let me do that with you folks on the computer right now.
Xerxes. 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 Xerxes.
Different pronunciations. They're towing me down this line of information about Queen Esther.
Xerxes the First.
There you go.
Xerxes the First.
Okay. King of Persia, who led a vast army against Greece. His forces were victorious at Thermopylae. The same Xerxes that fell in love with Esther and did not know that she was a Jew. Haman gave orders that all Jews be killed. Esther's uncle Mordecai came to see Esther and asked for help. He told her that she must save her people. She fasted for 3 days. She put on her finest dress and stood before the king. She told him of Haman's evil plan and pleaded for the safety of her people. Immediately, Xerxes put an end to Haman's plan, and Haman himself, Queen Esther, had saved her people. Yeah, I think it originates in the underground tunnel. I think it originates in the Himalayas, and then emerges in Peru. Okay, so that is Pa. That's the fifth ray Hilarion, the third eye. Well, it is discernment, but discernment is also really the domain of Ascended Master Paul the Venetian. And that's a very important teaching, is you discern with your heart. It's important that it's important that your heart chakra function properly, because it is the domain of discernment. No, it's the flame of the temple of Melchizedek. Quote, and it states that wherever the name of an archangel, an Elohim, an ascended being is written or spoken, there is the focus of that electronic presence. We'll get into 14 Ascended Masters next time. That's the Native American. They govern the death. Okay? Right. Okay. Thanks for that. Okay. Namaste, everyone. I'm going to take a pause and try to edit what I have and seek assistance. If I can help you, if you can help me, find a new location for all of this. Okay. Take care. Peace. Bye.